Hey everyone, welcome back to another Tic Tac Taiko. After teaching so many solo workshops, the one thing I hear over and over again is that people feel stuck in their solos. And in those workshops, I often force people, in a fun way, to play something they normally would never play, to stir up the creative juices, to get the ideas flowing. But sometimes, by going so far, when a person returns to their practices or returns to the performances, they're gonna revert to what they normally play. So this week, I'm gonna try something different that I don't normally do in my workshops. And we're gonna figure out if we can't get you unstuck. First off, what does it mean to be stuck in a solo? It can range anywhere from, well, I was thinking I might try something new in the moment and the moment passed and I didn't. Or all the way over to, I had this solo planned, I've been practicing some new material, and when the time came, I just reverted to what I usually play out of habit. Now, it doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum, it can be incredibly frustrating, and sometimes it might even make you feel like you're not a good taiko player, you're not a good soloist, which is nonsense. We've all been through this. The longer you play taiko, the more you're gonna feel those times where you're stuck. This week's video is meant to address it. We're going to use your brain and your body's habits and familiarity, and we're gonna build on that in increments, rather than what my workshops tend to do, which is to push you way over to the side and go, hey, look what you can do, let's bring some of it back. Hopefully between one of those two methods, you'll find something that works for you. This drill has 3 versions that I'm teaching this week. Each version addresses a different scenario that might be affecting you. I'm going to be using a single bar as an example, a single measure, but it's just an example to show you how to apply each of those versions. You might find something that works a little better, like a longer passage, or have an entire solo and want to break it down bar by bar by bar. You'll find out a way that works for you. Also, within each of those 3 versions are 2 methods, 2 different ways to approach each of those 3 versions. So there's a lot of options, and hopefully, again, you'll find something that appeals to you, that works with your brain and your body, and you can slowly increment your way into a place that you feel like you're growing. We'll get through the 3 versions as I get to them, but as for the 2 methods, I just want to point out, the first one is analytical. It's starting and stopping, going through with a very intellectual process. The other one is more organic. It's about flow. It's just trying things out and seeing what happens, seeing how things feel, spending time here, moving on to this. Either one of them might work in any given situation, but I want to explain how each of them work with each of the 3 versions. But before I forget to mention, don't you forget to hit the like button, give a thumbs up to the channel, let the algorithm know this is good content, it makes everybody happy. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a good time. Okay, on to the versions. Version 1 of this drill is when you have a pattern that's not too complicated, not too dense, and has movement. And in this case, you want to keep the pattern, but you're open to changing the movement. So the pattern I'm using for version 1 is like this. Apologies for things going off screen, but I don't have as much room as I would like, and I'll probably hit the ceiling if I really extend. I've done it before, there's some marks up there. I'll start with the analytical framework. I want to understand what the movement is so that I can start playing with it while keeping the pattern intact. Because if I just try something completely different, that's going to what my workshops do, which forces people really far away from what they're used to, right? And the whole point is to try to work with what you're used to. So, what is that underlying foundation? I've got a movement that goes out, forward, back at an angle, and then up. More or less straight, but slightly angled. I'm going flat, angle, up. Well, first thing that comes to mind is, what if I just switch the order of the first 2? So instead of, I do easy. And if I was, say, stuck on that pattern, this would be a super easy change to do. It might open up some doors I'm not even aware of. But there's something else I realized that's missing from my original pattern. This is very linear, very straight, very angled. There's nothing round or circular. So what if I made something round or circular? From here to here, this feels nice. And even though this is a very different movement, it still has the core components. And I think it looks pretty cool too. It's got this thing in it. And it's important to do your patterns when you're playing around both slowly and at tempo, because you might find that you have something that doesn't work at tempo. But it's good to practice and find out for yourself. And now that I've done the analytical method, I'm going to switch to the organic method or the flow method. I'm just going to do about 30 seconds of trying stuff out. I'll start with the main pattern, the original pattern, and see what feels good in the moment. And if I like something, I might stay there for a while. Who knows where I'll get to, but I want to start with what's familiar. It's important to point out that everyone is going to be comfortable with different things. For me, I'm very comfortable moving my feet, changing my angles. That's my comfort zone. If you don't move your feet, if you stay there, that's fine. You find things you're comfortable with and add them to what you're working on. You're working with your strengths, you're working with the things that are familiar, because you're trying to tell your brain, it's okay, we're still safe, rather than, I want you to do this and this and this, because again, that's the whole point of this week's video, is to keep you where you're comfortable and work with it. In version 2, you're taking what you did in version 1 and switching your priorities. So this time, I'm going to try to keep the movement, but I'm going to change the pattern that I'm playing. Now, I will say you do have to change the movement somewhat in order to play something different, but the focus is on keeping the visual while changing the audio. So we'll start with the analytical. I want to break down the pattern and really understand what the root is, what my core is feeling. We've got a pattern that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's that note on the 6 and, a little bit of syncopation, but I feel like the core is actually deeper and simpler than that for me. To me, I feel like it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's hit, rest, something there. I can do a lot with that. I mean, that is open fields for me to play in. So with that, I'm going to use that understanding, try to keep the basic movements and see what comes up. How about, let's see. Oh, I like the idea of shifting everything over, just like by an eighth note. I mean, this is all eighth notes anyways. What if I start on an upbeat and the first note is on beat number 2? That's a super simple change, and I really like how it feels. The other thing that comes to mind is, because there are already these pauses, these spaces, what if I expand some of them or contract some of them even more? I think it would allow for more time to do more movements if I wanted to put in more patterns if I wanted, or just to make it syncopated by simply shifting the spaces. So maybe something like, I mean, it's essentially the same pattern, but little compact, little expanded, and there's a lot of times and a lot of places I can do that if I really want to explore through the analytical method. There's also, of course, the organic or flow method where you just try stuff out and don't stop. I'm going to do that with this pattern, again, focusing on the movement, changing the pattern, and changing the movement a little bit when I feel like I need to. There were definitely things I really wanted to explore further, but I don't think you want to watch me playing 5 minutes of going, oh, this sounds cool, oh, that sounds cool. But doing this gives me ideas and gives me sort of a inspiration to dive further. For version 3, you have a pattern that's dense or complicated. It just has a lot of notes, and there's really no time for movement. So we're just going to be focusing on what it sounds like. The example I have for this pattern goes like this. So we're going to use those same two methods that we've been using in the other versions. We'll start by analyzing. What is the skeleton, the framework of this pattern? What am I working with? Well, let's take a look at the pattern. It goes like this. So there are two clear sections. One that goes dun taka dun dun taka dun dun. The other one that goes da dun da dun da dun da dun. What do those actually mean? What's the math involved, if you will? The first pattern goes like this. Don suku don, don suku don, don suku don, don suku don, don suku don. It's 3. The other pattern is also 3, but it's twice as fast. Da dun da dun da dun da dun da dun da dun da dun. So I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Whatever, it's basically 3s over 2, so it's a very syncopated pattern. Also, the first pattern goes more than 50% of the way in. Don suku don, don suku don, don suku don, don do don. Second half starts on 6, so I've got a majority of the first half. And the second half is do don, do don, do don, do don. So it's the last part. Also good to know. Now knowing that, what can I do? First thing that comes to mind is changing the length of either pattern. Essentially, if one is more, the other one is less. What would that sound like? Well, let's see if I make the first part of the pattern go even longer, and then whatever's left is the second part. Okay, that works. It works, it fits just fine. What if I go the other way? It's a little much, I think. So what if I don't make the second half quite as long and I add some dynamics in between to kind of change the flavor? It might sound like this. I like that a little better. So I'm starting to hone in on what I like and what sounds and feels good to me because I understand the foundations of what the pattern is. Something else I can do is forcibly insert something simple like doro or dogo dogo in the middle somewhere just to see what happens. It's like dropping a rock into a lake and seeing the ripples. I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to create a pattern, and I'll keep dropping rocks until I find something that I find appealing. Something like that. I might change where I drop that rock. It may be a little early, might be a little later, but now I've got the idea of seeing what happens to the ripples after I've made that drop. And of course, after the analytical method, we have the organic method, the flow. So I'm going to try that like I've done with the other two examples, and we'll see what happens. There was some interesting stuff in there. I particularly found myself liking the dance, 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 dance. Almost exactly the same pattern, but that accent added a very, very different feel. So I picked up some interesting things I know I would go back to, and that's the whole point of flow. So we've made it to the end, and I want to leave you with something I think is a really, really important point. Ultimately, it doesn't matter which version you like or use, which method you find more appropriate and enjoyable. Doesn't matter what the patterns are, doesn't matter what the movements are. It's remembering that if you feel stuck, it's because your body and or brain are latching on to what's comfortable and they don't want to let go. So you use a drill like this, however it works for you, to make incremental changes. Not radical changes, small changes that help you open up. You might not be completely free. You might still have things that you feel stuck on. But look, you're a lot more further along than you were. And recognizing that is a huge thing. Because if you feel stuck, you often feel like it's something wrong with you. There's a problem, you're not good, etc. I talked about that earlier. It's not. It's just how our brains and our bodies are wired. And we're trying to figure out through this week's video how to work with it so that eventually you can be a lot more free than you were before. So I hope some of that landed with some of you. There's a lot you can try. There's a lot of different avenues you can take, but the idea is work with what you have to get to where you want. And until next time, keep on practicing and be well.